Wait a sec. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to WOOGIES Corner. I'm standing here in Houston, Texas with my friend Hippie, and we're getting ready for a big adventure, folks. We're heading off to the National, Aeronautical Space Administration.
Something like that.
NASA. Now, apparently I got my directions all mixed up. We're supposed to be heading, where are we going? We're going southeast to get to NASA. So that's what we're going to do today. And we're standing in front of Hippie and Melanie's beautiful house here. So anyway, we got adventures coming up. We're going to San Antonio, to the Alamo. And then we're going to be going down to the Gulf of Mexico to Corpus Christi. And the adventure continues. Stay tuned, because we got lots coming at you. I think we covered it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Good enough. Well, apparently Houston has these loop roads. It's a big place. 2.3 million people live here, and they have these loop roads that go around the city, and we're just passing the middle loop road exit off the freeway. This is the Interstate 10 that we're on right now. It goes east-west. So they have these loops that go around Houston. One is the inner loop, and then the middle loop, and then the outer loop. And we're just passing the middle one right now. So apparently we are now passing the inner loop that goes around downtown Houston. We've been driving around here for about 30 minutes on this freeway, and I just got informed that we're just now starting to get near the center of Houston. You'd have to see this place. Well, it's the fourth largest city in the United States, for one thing. It's our largest city in Texas. The fourth in the United States. It's huge, 2.3 million people. And pretty flat, too. There's not really much in the way of mountains around here, but yeah, a lot of people. Well, we're once again coming up on a closer view of the downtown. We're actually kind of looks like we're going to go through it, isn't it? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, we're good a little bit.
We're going through the downtown here, yeah. Okay. Overpasses everywhere. Apparently this traffic, Hippie tells me that this is pretty light today, but I guess it's just bad most of the time. They're even talking about putting another level on top of this freeway because they can't expand to the sides. Traffic is, I guess sometimes it's just gridlock. You just get on here and it's hard to go anywhere. So there you go. Well, I guess when you stick 2.3 million people in an area, this is what you're going to run into. Apparently, Houston is well known for two things, mainly from what I gather, is oil production and headquarters and anything to do with the oil industry, and world-class medical facilities, training, supplies, facilities, surgeons, you name it. I guess Houston is one of the places in the world to be for that. We just passed a great big medical center back behind us. In fact, that all over there to our left is all medical, heavy-duty medical stuff. I thought this thing off to our left was maybe part of the NASA structure, but Hippie says, no, it's just a water tower. So we are on the NASA exit right now, heading toward the NASA facility. I understand that we'll be able to see it pretty soon. So now we are getting close to the NASA Space Center. In fact, yeah, there's a sign right over there. And there seems to be a big jet over here. Yep.
There's a shuttle over here with this.
Yep. And there's this one of the shuttles is off to our left. We'll look at that later, I'm sure. So So we are now entering the NASA Space Museum, or Space Center actually. Oh yeah, some pretty impressive looking stuff here. That would be a rocket, I would assume. There's a space shuttle right in front of us.
No, from here I don't.
And the 747 is sitting on.
Not knowing what we were going to be doing exactly,
We're walking up to the Houston Space Center, and I suspect this is going to be one major tourist attraction, but probably pretty interesting, I would suspect. This is one of those events, folks, that you sort of see other people get to go see it, and you never think you're going to do it yourself, and lo and behold, here we are. Well, I don't know whether that's a model of a lunar lander or an actual lunar lander. I'm not sure. But it's right over my head here, and I'll tell you what, it's an impressive looking thing. Over to my right is, well, it looks like the nose going off a rocket. Amazing. This looks like a kind of an undersuit for a spacesuit, I suspect. And over here looks like the spacesuit itself. Now there, wow, that's pretty impressive. What would you do if somebody knocked on your door and you open the door and some creature looking like this was standing at your door? That would be interesting. And over here, I'm not quite sure what we got here. It looks like, well, it says Apollo, so maybe this is the suit that they would wear during the flight. Well, we're inside the NASA Space Museum, and I'm looking up over my head here, and it's hard to get this in the camera, but this is a model of parts of the International Space Station. I don't know, give you some idea of the immensity of some of this. And then off to my left is more space suits that they wear. And over here, apparently, is what the crew of the space station wear a lot of times when they're on board. Looks pretty casual to me. Like something you'd wear at the beach. But anyway, here again is another view of this model of the space station. Now this would be minus all the solar panels and other stuff that you'd normally see. And what this is over here, I'm not quite sure what that is. Almost looks like a section of a rocket. All right. Well, we're kind of piecing this together a little bit. We're looking at a structure here that is apparently Apollo. Okay, the U.S. At first I thought it was Soyuz, Russian, but it's not. It's a U.S. Apollo, and it docks. There's a docking mechanism right there. It latches onto the Skylab, the early Skylab. So you can see up inside this thing, There's seats for 3 people, or 3 astronauts in here to ride in this thing. And then they drift, they drift up through this tunnel and into the Skylab. Yeah, we're coming into Skylab. This was the America's first space station, and this was the on-Earth mock-up for it, the trainer for it. This is where it all happened before they built another one and sent it off to space, which it's now has re-entered the atmosphere. There's no more, and it's been replaced with the ISS, International Space Station. So here we are inside the mock-up for the Skylab. This is where the training took place, and they've got a astronaut in training already up there. I think he missed the boat by about 40 or 50 years, but anyway, this is where it all happened, folks. Right in this unit right here. Absolutely fascinating. Now we're moving forward through the space station. Yeah, that's how they used to sleep, in some kind of a tube. So I guess they didn't drift around during the night. Oh my goodness. You really have to be a special kind of person to want to do this. And now we're back outside, and we are getting ready to go up and tour one of the space shuttles. And the 747 that it's sitting on, that they used to use to carry this thing from Canaveral to Arizona or wherever they were landing. Absolutely amazing stuff. Okay, we have taken the elevator up to probably 3 floors or so, and we're now looking at the front of the, oh my goodness, this one of the space shuttles, the Independence, I believe. And as you can see, you got the heat resistant tiles on the nose cone here. And then down below that, of course, is the 747, the nose of the 747 that it's sitting on. The immensity of this whole project is absolutely mind-blowing when you think about it. Okay, we're going to go inside and have a look. Okay, here we are. We're heading inside the space shuttle Independence. As you can see, lots of people today, but that's okay. We'll see what we can see. They used to land these things on the west coast a lot. I'm not sure where, out in Arizona, maybe Nevada, California. Then they would use the 747 to shuttle the space shuttle back to Cape Canaveral in Florida for relaunch. So anyway, what are we looking at here?
tiny baby capsules.
This would be the cockpit area right here in front of me. And yeah, you can look right through here, this plexiglass shield. My goodness, and there's the right-hand seat, left-hand seat. So, folks, this is the cockpit of an actual space shuttle. I don't think this is a mock-up. This is the Independence. I think this is either the last one or near the last one that they mothballed. Not that many years ago when you think about it. So these were basically a big glider when they landed. They had no engines when they landed. They just glided them in. And now we're approaching the cargo bay area. This is the shot, folks, that you see out in space when they open up the doors up there. And I don't know whether the robot arm is still here. It's probably not. Maybe. Maybe that's it over to our right there. I'm not sure. Ah, it says Canada. Yes. The nation of Canada built the Canada arm, which is right here. That is Canada's contribution, one of them, to the success of the space missions with the space shuttle, was the Canada arm. That is a long thing. I didn't realize that arm was that long. Oh my goodness. In fact, this whole bay is, what 40 feet? 45 feet? That's really quite something. Hey, you can put a lot of stuff in here. It's hard to believe, you're standing in a place that has been in space. I don't know how many times this unit has gone into space and back, but quite a few. It's kind of an eerie feeling. And there's the tail section of the Space Shuttle Independence. It's hard to do on the camera here to give the scale of just how big this thing is. You know, it's funny, it doesn't have a lot of wing. That's why, for all the aviation buffs out there, their landing speed was high. I think it was like 275 mile an hour touchdown speed. I mean, these things were moving. They had to, because look at the wing here. There's not much wing there, for something this size. But the body of the shuttle is quite wide, so I think that kind of constitutes part of the wing. And you notice on the tail of the 747 they had to put extra rudders on there for airflow. Well, we are now entering the mid-deck, cargo deck of the Space Shuttle Endeavour. You don't realize how big these things are until you actually get in them. All the images over the years we've ever seen of the space shuttles, they look big, but not that big. But boy, you get in here, and there's a lot of room in this cargo bay. I'll tell you what. There's probably more room than a full-size reefer van has on the highway. A lot of room in here. And this is the, they call this the mid-deck. I'm not quite sure what this is, but and here we have in front of me is a launch and entry suit. I guess when they, just as their name implies, whenever they launch and re-enter the atmosphere, they wear that suit. There's a bunch of lockers here. I'm not quite sure what they're used for. Then we've got some kind of an entry point off to behind us here. There's an astronaut in there.
I guess from here you can get into the cargo place.
Yeah, you can go right into the cargo bay. This is an airtight room. The cargo bay is not pressurized or not airtight. But this is. So this is how they would get in and out of the cargo bay, I guess. Airlock. Yeah, that's what it is. And then over here, you have another major airlock to the outside.
Yeah.
Now, this would be maybe their entry point.
Yeah, maybe so, yeah.
You know, it shows on the video that we've all seen of people, you know, coming into the side of the shuttle. And that maybe that was what that is right there. That, well, what do you think, folks? I think we know what that is. Yeah, here's the other side of that airlock in there. I guess this is how the crew enter and exit the cargo bay. Because like I said, the cargo bay was not pressurized in any way, but that room in there was.
Explanation there.
Airlock, yeah.
CLS is go for orbiter access arm breeze track. CLS is go for first sequence 4.
But I'm always amazed at how big this cargo bay is. My goodness, I mean, it extends back past that structure in the middle, whatever that is. This thing's got to be 50 feet long. Really quite impressive. Yeah, look at the side of the wing of that 747. Compared to the people below it. There's a lot of wing there, and then you compare that side of the wing to the size of the shuttle. Wow. Quite amazing. And here, folks, is the famous 747 Boeing that everybody knows and loves. And this particular one is one of a few that they converted over to haul the space shuttle around. This gives you a really good view of the tiles on the bottom of the shuttle, the heat tiles. And we'll remember that from the Challenger disaster in '86 when some of the tiles came loose. And, well, anyway, we lost the shuttle with everybody aboard. But the 747 is pretty fascinating. Pack that thing around. We're going to take a walk in there, have a look. So here we are. Boy, they're a big aircraft, I'll tell you. Now, of course, this one here has been all gutted out, no seats or passenger accommodation, designed to pack the shuttle. And up forward here is the narrows down into the, of course, that would be the flight deck up above us, or forward of us, which is all closed off. And well, here's a NASA table, I guess, where certain crew members would sit during a workstation, yeah. And let's see, what else we got here? It's just a big aircraft. Now this would be the stairs to the upper flight deck. Actually, I was wrong before. I said that was the flight deck in front of us. That would be the nose up there, but the flight deck is up above us, up these stairs, but you can't go there.
Who dreamed up this remarkable partnership of an airplane and an orbiter? Whose imagination
But amazing.
solved the very problem of returning
Absolutely
the shuttle to its
amazing.
home base? His name was John Kuiper.
John Kuiper was so very instrumental in the space shuttle program because he was the one that came up with the idea of placing the space shuttle orbiter on top of a 747, Boeing 747, to move it across the country.
Kind of makes you wonder who thought this one up.
California, back to Cape Canaveral for the next launch.
When John Kuiper proposed his piggyback idea to NASA officials, they were skeptical.
Who knows what this is? Some kind of equipment for something.
Approach and landing test.
Aha. What is it? It's a we test the landing equipment or something. All right. There's a picture of it there. This must have been a picture of the plant where they built this plane. Probably Boeing did it. And retrofitting a commercial 747, taking all the seats out and doing a bunch of structural modification, wiring and Lord knows what, to pack that extra weight up on top like that. Stress test. Let's take a look at this for a second. Now this is where they would, I guess, you push the button here and this thing would, yeah, let's see, what's it going to do? Yeah, so I guess they would drop this thing down on the fuselage a few times to see whether it was going to crush everything. This would be a simulated wind tunnel model. As you can see, they've got a big fan in the front of this thing, out the front here. Blows a bunch of air through the center section.
What if I turn it down? Will it change it?
And they would
No, it does not change. I got the perfect green.
conduct wind tunnel tests of the aerodynamics of that dual plane configuration. Get it just right. Well, let's see, what do we got over here? Well, they got some kind. Okay, here they have a simulation of. They're bringing the 747 underneath this big gantry, and they're going to lower the space shuttle down on top of it. All right, that's pretty interesting. Well,
You're trying to break my turn.
that gives you an idea how that works. Look at the size of this plane, folks, inside. I mean, when you see a 747 all kind of gutted out like this, with all the seats removed and everything out of it, I mean, that's how much size you're looking at. They're a big,
Space there is there.
oh boy, they're a big aircraft. Well, we're coming up on the tail end of the aircraft here. Now behind us here, what do we got here? Ah, this is a pressure dome. Now what is that? Let's see, let's take a look here. I'm not even sure what this is.
It maintains cabin pressure by sealing the main cabin from the tail of the aircraft.
Ah,
Ah, there you go.
maintain the cabin pressure by sealing the tail of the aircraft from the main cabin,
From
right?
the outside, I guess, yeah. Yeah,
Now why would they do that?
I guess the tail is non-pressurized, I guess.
Well, I guess so. Well, on our walk out of the museum, lo and behold, what do we find here but a rocket that upon further examination is a SpaceX rocket from the famous Elon Musk SpaceX. This one happens to be a Falcon 9, and it's an unusual piece of gear. These things you see sticking out of the side here is the landing gear. So these things pop out and it turns itself around just like a Buck Rogers film out of the 50s and lands on these landing gear. It's really quite amazing. This one has been used twice, up to space and back twice. Apparently it takes $200,000 to put the propellant, which is liquid oxygen and something else. Probably could be peroxide or I'm not sure what else. The peroxide is usually what they use. But anyway, what an interesting piece of gear. It was nice of well, folks, this is the Apollo 17, the last spacecraft to carry the last person, Gene Cernan, to walk on the surface of the moon, 1972. And when you look at this thing up close, the complexity, for example, of the door mechanism alone, and you know, the dummy of the astronaut sitting inside. This thing is real. This went to space and back, and the reason you can tell is look at the exterior of it. When I first saw it, I thought they had done some kind of weird paint job. No, that's heat, folks. Nothing but re-entry heat that did that. Can you imagine the amount of temperature it would take to do that? Well, I'll tell you what. You think about it, you put your life in the hands of a whole bunch of people that design these things. You're right on the edge of instant disaster at any given second, despite what your calculations may say. Wow, it's pretty mind-boggling. I would think those guys coming back into re-entry for that, 3 minutes during blackout, when the heat was so intense that they couldn't communicate. I would suspect that's going to be one of the longest 3 minutes of their lives. Amazing. Display here. This is rather interesting. This is the remnants of the old Mercury program that preceded the Apollo, and that's one of the Mercury spacecraft. But what interests me is looking at that backdrop, how they did that. It looks like they just punched a million holes in something black and then stuck lights behind it, which is probably what they did. I don't know, but it's pretty impressive anyway. But that Mercury spacecraft, that thing's pretty small compared to the Apollo. And that, as far as I know, this isn't a mock-up. This is one of the spacecraft. I think Ed White was the pilot of this. Amazing. Well, this is probably a mock-up of the actual lunar modules that they used to use to train the astronauts to actually set down on the surface of the moon. So this is what they would see. I'm not sure. It looks like they got a couple, it looks like knee pad lever things down there. I'm not quite sure what that's all about. But there's a view through the tiny windows that they had. Must have been really quite something coming down onto the lunar surface and looking at that. Okay, everybody, I hope you sure enjoyed that little adventure up to NASA. It was a lot of fun. So anyway, I'm going to give a big thanks to my cousin Melanie here and her husband Hippie. We're at their wonderful place in Houston. So we're going to say goodbye. In fact, we're saying goodbye to them too, because we're flying to Florida tomorrow and the adventure is going to continue. But in the meantime, I guess got to ask this. How in the world did you get that name Hippie? You don't look like a hippie to me.
Well, it's a long story that probably doesn't
We're
fit
trying to condense
into the
it
whole
down.
thing, but back in Panama, I was sort of the original hippie. I let my hair grow.
It wasn't gray back then.
No, it wasn't gray. It was black, necklace,
Oh,
beads
man.
everywhere.
What?
I was a mess, so people call me hippie.
So, how did you get into the picture with this guy anyway? Like, what was going on there?
We lived in the same neighborhood area in Panama called Las Cumbres, which means the hills. My dad was renting a home there, and we just hung out with kids from the neighborhood. I had a girlfriend who was whose sister was a friend of his. And then when we would get together, everyone would get together on Friday nights at the local community center, had a pool and everything. I met him actually at her house, but I was young. So we didn't date until a year or two later, but that's when I met him. About a year or two later, when my dad retired, my sister Deanne and Scott and myself were still in school, the Canal Zone schools, and so as not to lose time and have time off, long time off, to get back into the Canal Zone schools, which were paid by military. My dad, when he retired, couldn't continue the military schooling in the Canal Zone, put us in the Panama School, Pedagógico, Instituto Pedagógico, and he kind of would frequent Instituto Pedagógico to get to know me.
Checking up on her.
Yeah.
He was checking up on you.
Yeah.
So tell me about your dad. He was a military Navy commander, right?
Yes.
Full commander?
Full commander.
Full commander. And he had been stationed in what, New York, Bermuda?
Trinidad
Trinidad?
and Panama. Hence, I was born in Panama in one of his tours. I don't know the succession, but yeah, those were the countries that and U.S.
Yeah.
New York, and Florida. Deanne was born in Florida.
Where was your mom from?
Texas.
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 I see.
Yep.
How come they say everything's bigger and better? in
It
Texas?
is bigger,
Yeah.
and it's a whole lot better.
Oh boy.
Vegas.
Okay. Well, listen, what else can we end this off? Because we don't have a lot of time, but we got to end it on something. What are we going to end it with?
We
Your
were
choice.
supposed to have some rum in our
We were
hands.
supposed to have. They got some rum down here, folks. But we thought, well, maybe we might offend somebody. Drink some. Maybe we should say
Salud.
Cheers, salud to everybody.
Salute.
Salud. Yeah.
Salute.
You all come back.
Y'all come back down here.